Week of Thanksgiving. It's cruel.
We're just hours away now from the beginning of a 3-week ban on in-person dining in Los Angeles County and all of the economic repercussions that come with it. Meanwhile, more churches in California are joining the fight against Governor Gavin Newsom's restrictions on in-person gathering. Let's discuss these two hot topics with the owner of California-based Slapfish Restaurant, Chef Andrew Gruel, and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, Cal Berkeley Law Professor John Yoo. Great to have you both with us.
Hey, Shannon.
Okay, I want to cite a tweet from Bill Malugan, who is a local reporter out there, and he was covering the LA County Board of Supervisors when they voted for this lockdown shutdown of including outdoor dining. He says, here's the thread, a summary of what we just heard from the LA County Department of Public Health. They have no data or numbers tying outdoor dining to a surge in cases in LA. They based decisions off a national CDC study that didn't discern indoor-outdoor dining, quote, best info we have. Chef, how does that make you feel to hear that that is how they made a decision that will impact potentially thousands of people and their jobs now?
It's certainly a gut punch, and I recall that study from a few months back, and it was actually 300 participants across 10 states, so that's 30 people per state with varying regulations. And I remember picking it apart at the time, and it was really junk science, and it still is. So to get crippled by these new mandates at the last minute going into Thanksgiving with no science backing it up, it's really a shame.
Tell me about what it could potentially mean to people who work in the restaurant industry in California, especially going into the holiday season. And would you feel better about having to deliver bad news to some of your staff or for others who are going to have to do that if you felt like it was connected to hard data?
No, I mean, this is, as I said, crippling. I mean, and that's a light word for this. So the amount of people that are going to be laid off as a result of this, across all of our restaurants, we've seen sales immediately halt. I mean, it really was a screeching halt, even at the announcement about these new regulations. And now it's about, okay, well, sales are that slow. We've got to lay people off. I've seen, even in my general orbit locally, at least 100 people I've heard of who have been laid off. And the question becomes, where's the support system, right? Where's the framework through which all of these people can then kind of bridge into the next step, which we don't even know what that is yet. And it's the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough time. I mean, for people across the country, by the millions who've lost their jobs this year, it's difficult any time of year, but most certainly going into the holidays, super discouraging when a lot of people felt like they were on the rebound. Now, John, I know you have some news on the restaurant front, but I also want to ask you about churches, because another church out in California has filed an emergency request with the Supreme Court today. They say basically that the pastors, the staff, everybody there are facing potential fines, jail time, even closure of the church if they decide to show up and worship because of Governor Gavin Newsom's restrictions, and they're asking the justices to block them so that they can express exercise their First Amendment rights.
Yes, Shannon, I think it's actually very similar to the kind of case that we were just talking about with restaurants. What is the proof that the government has that justifies such a severe restriction on either with restaurants the right to make a living or with the First Amendment the right to free exercise of religion? Courts at first are going to be deferential to the government when it makes emergency measures. But as Justice Alito reminded us just 2 weeks ago in a well-known speech, as time goes on, courts are going to get involved and they're going to ask for more information. And one thing courts have been clear about is the government cannot pick and choose amongst favorites for these lockdowns. They can't say, well, you can have a Black Lives Matter protest, but you can't have church services. They have to be treated equally. And then the last point I would make is enforcement. Who is going to obey these orders? Police officers don't want to go around snooping in churches, snooping in restaurants. They want to fight violent crime. So people have to follow these mostly voluntarily. Are we going to voluntarily follow these rules in California when we have a governor who feels happy and content to go to restaurants and eat out the fanciest restaurants in California with a bunch of medical care healthcare lobbyists? That's going to destroy the moral underpinnings of these kinds of orders, and Californians are going to be less likely to follow them voluntarily.
Mm-hmm. Right, and Chef, we know a number of law enforcement agencies say we're not going to do this. We're not going to go around and peek in people's, count how many people are sitting at the Thanksgiving table, that kind of thing. But for you guys, quickly, I would imagine there are licenses at stake. There are ways that you could be punished and fined as a business if you don't comply.
Exactly, and I will say anecdotally, one thing that's very interesting is that we've had a lot more government workers coming into our restaurants for things from doubling health inspection checks, fats, oils, and grease. I mean, a lot of these agencies I didn't even know existed. So there's actually what feels like a surplus of government workers in our restaurants. I don't know whether they're spying. That's probably a little conspiracy on my part. But the point is that when we shut down like this, then we're relegated to takeout and these third-party delivery outlets. And these third-party delivery outlets are taking 30 cents off of every single dollar. So really it's just a transfer of wealth from Main Street to Silicon Valley. And it's about those big box retailers, Silicon Valley, getting rich while all the small businesses are getting crushed here.
Okay, well, we will continue to watch and see how these cases play out in California and beyond. Chef Andrew Gruel and John Yoo, thank you both very much.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay.